Hey y'all, we'll be going over chapter 11, creating a multicultural classroom. This is Brenna, and I'll be doing the very first part. So, 11.1 covers how to make a clear vision with your beliefs and then create a set of goals about what you want to accomplish as an effective teacher for all learners. So, I like this quote: if you don't know where you're going, it's going to be difficult to get there. So, traditionally, educational leaders were expected to convey a sense of visions, and then teachers were to follow. So, these leaders may be your principal or your school district or the state, etc. But more recently, it's been proved that visions will have a greater chance of being achieved if it's developed collaboratively. So, teachers are now expected to become teacher leaders, and in other words, to be engaged in decision making and significant school improvements. So, it's important in our journey toward becoming an effective multicultural educator. We should figure out how to examine and clarify our own perception and beliefs. And as we grow in professional development, our statements will change as well. And it's important now to take action and to put our beliefs in writing so we know where we're going, or it's going to be difficult if we don't know what we want to be as a teacher. So here are just some sample sets of beliefs. I believe that learning must take place within a social context in which students are learning from and with one another, making connections and constructing meaning. And then another one, I believe that when students make connections during learning, they are more likely to understand larger concepts and to apply learning. And I believe that inquiry-based teaching and learning can lead students to organize information, solve problems, and formulate problems. Here's some just more examples I think that are helpful. And the thing I like about this is we can have several sets of beliefs. All these work, some of them work, you may not agree with all of them, and that's what you really want to figure out as a teacher is, what are my beliefs? So to take stock of your beliefs, you can ask these questions, these following questions. So how do I define effective teaching? Is it myself getting up there teaching and just having students respond? Do I find effective teaching my students are doing well in the classes that I'm teaching and getting good grades, etc.? Or what are my most 5 important goals as a teacher? Do I just want my students to pass a test? Or do I want my students to come away better people than they already were? And then what's the purpose of teaching? We're not teaching for ourselves. I already know the content. So why am I teaching? And then what do I expect of students? Do I expect different levels of achievement of different types of students? And then in what ways do I believe that cultural differences affect the teaching and learning process? And I think that's something we've been studying all semester. And then how do I select instructional strategies to ensure that all students are learning to be culturally proficient? And then what important knowledge, skills, and dispositions do effective teachers of culturally diverse students possess? And once again, we've talked about this in this class. So once we figure out our beliefs, we can create a vision. And what is a vision? A vision for a classroom or a school is a picture sometimes graphically portrayed, sometimes explores linguistically, of what a teacher and members of the school community hope to achieve. So, what are some components of a vision? What do I want to put in my own vision? Maybe people that are present in the vision, such as myself, students, community, or people who are in positions of power. This can include children. Decision-making process in the classroom and in school. How am I going to teach my class? Or how is my school going to go forth with this matter of education? Communication mechanisms and processes, or a philosophy of how children learn, and then the physical orientation of furniture and materials. That may be a thing for you. That's not for me. That is not going to be a component of my vision. But remember that visions can change. So I want I think we should consider what supports are in place to help us achieve our vision and what barriers might hinder its achievement as we go forth, hoping to have an successful vision. So, after we explore our own beliefs and create a vision for ourselves and our classroom, the next step is to establish goals as a multicultural educator. We want to make sure that we are going to achieve our vision. It doesn't work if we just write it down and leave it on a post-it note under our desk. We want to achieve it. So one of the ways to do this is create a SMART goal. I'm sure we've all heard of it, the specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely goals. So something I do would be specific would be I want to make a goal where each one of my students understand Newton's third law. And measurable, how am I going to measure that? Will it be through an assessment? I hope to have a goal of like my students will be able to fill out a test on Newton's third law or such. And is it attainable? I mean, I'm not asking my students to learn quantum physics, so I'm pretty sure they can learn Newton's third law. And is it realistic? Have I set a realistic timeline for all my students to go accomplish? And is it timely? Am I asking them to do it in a day, a month, a year? But how do I select my goals? So I'd look back at my vision as I'm looking at our SMART diagram, and then I need to know what I need to learn more deeply to achieve this. So if I'm focusing on Newton's third law, I need to learn more about how I can achieve this goal. Do I need to learn more about it? Is my knowledge not good enough about it, or can I learn about how to teach it, etc.? And if you don't like this way, another way to do it is to select and organize goals according to teaching standards. So one approach to organizing standards is according to the three broad areas: knowledge, which would be about like self, content, culture; skills, so my skill with teaching, learning, curriculum development, assessment, and so forth. What skills do I want to have a goal for? And then disposition, so addressing beliefs and attitudes. So how do I want to reflect, understand values, beliefs, etc.? It's also important to know that the difference between there's short-term goals and long-term goals. Short-term goals will help you get to your long-term goals. So another thing that we're going to talk about too is explain ways to design learning experiences that put students first. Like I said, we already know as teachers what our content area. So we need to learn how to put students first in designing learning experience that can help enrich their lives. So usually teachers start with content and then organize activities. But this is no longer believed to be beneficial for students. The starting point should be the students and then the outcomes that we expect from them. So if a teacher are to design learning experiences that are appropriate from individual learners, scaffold learning effectively, and build out what students know and are able to do, the starting point must be a clear understanding and knowledge of the students. And the process of learning about students is important at the start of the school year. That's when we do the dumb questions. Tell us one thing most people don't know about you, or blah, blah, blah. But it's important that it continues throughout the year, that you're constantly learning new things about your students. And because, at least for me, I don't learn much from one class period about someone. It takes a long time to really understand who they are as a person. As you progress throughout the year and learn about your students, you can add to areas such as preferred learning styles, preferred intelligences, etc. So the teacher's role is to develop an environment that builds confidence and assigns genuine and merited competence to every student. You want every type of student to succeed. So by understanding our students' background, we can design appropriate and challenging learning experience for each one and construct the learning environment in such a way as to make sure that each individual achieves at high levels. So this is a really good video that I think explains it really well, so you don't have to keep listening to me.
Teachers' beliefs about their students and what they can achieve have a substantial impact on students' learning and progress. Research shows that students whose teachers have high expectations and believe they can succeed do substantially better than the students of teachers who have low expectations of them. Students are very aware of their teachers' expectations. Those students whose teachers have low expectations of them tend to view themselves more negatively, and in contrast, students who have teachers with high expectations develop more positive attitudes towards learning and view themselves as capable learners. Practices of high expectation teachers include communicating learning goals and success criteria, asking more open questions designed to extend students' thinking, supporting students to make choices about their learning, linking achievement to motivation, effort, and goal setting, and using less differentiation and instead allowing all learners to take part in advanced activities. Low expectation teachers, on the other hand, are more directive, providing little opportunity for student choice, constantly reminding students of procedures, use ability groupings, spend more time with low achievers, and use incentives and rewards for motivation. Here are some ways to move towards high expectation teaching. Create a warm, supportive classroom by taking time to enjoy and getting to know your students, including student interests in learning activities, showing trust by giving students responsibility for their learning, and showing genuine interest in students' achievement. Clearly communicate the learning goals for the class by helping students to set their own goals, teaching students about SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, results-orientated, and time-bound goals, breaking larger goals into proximal goals which detail specific steps they need to take, focusing on mastery goals which emphasize the process of learning and improvement rather than performance or outcome goals. Group children in small mixed ability groups of 4 to 6. Try to change the groupings at least once a month. Allow students to choose their own activities from a range of options and minimize differentiation between high and low achievers. There should be a variety of levels of attainment possible within each activity. For more information and practical examples of how you can develop high expectation teaching, check out the resources on our website.
Okay, so 11.3, the learning objective is to establish effective strategies to collaborate with like-minded individuals who have made the same commitment to becoming a multicultural educator. Okay, so I want you to just take a minute to think about collaboration and what it means to you and write it down or think it to yourself. And I'll give like a minute to do that. Okay, collaboration means, this comes from the book. It means that overcoming the isolation that so often is a mean for overcoming the isolation that so often pervades many schools. Collaboration provides teachers with a sense of connectedness and community. Collaboration calls for the development of strong relationships that transcend the traditional boundaries of departments and grade levels. So, let's go to the next slide and we can talk about this. So it says one of the biggest problems that teachers face is the feeling of isolation. Some outcomes of teachers working in isolations are feelings of insecurity and lack of recognition. So I think that this is really interesting because if you think about it, if you isolate yourself from other teachers when in the workplace, you really are gonna go crazy because you're so focused on your students and you're so focused on their success that sometimes we don't see their success like right away. And so then we start feeling insecure and we don't feel recognized because we don't see their success and then we don't have other people telling us about their success. And so when we talk to other teachers, we're able to unite together, and I think we get a lot of um, support from other teachers because they're facing the same thing and they're having the same struggles with teaching. And so I think a lot of times we need to collaborate and share our ideas and share our feelings so that we can feel united together. So teachers need to connect with other teachers so they can learn a sense of unity and help students to learn better from one another. So this one I think is really good because a lot of times we just focus on our teaching style and we focus on our own perspective and we don't really try to try new ways of understanding other people. And if we talk to other teachers about the way that they teach and how they are working together, then we're able to connect to each other. So the book says the research about learning for both adults and children indicates that deep and meaningful learning occurs when people work in collaborative learning environments in which they have opportunities to learn from and with each other. So a lot of times there will be teachers that are more experienced than us that we're able to learn from, but then there's also like a lot of teachers that we can learn with. We're always learning, and I think with teaching that we are always learning how we can become a better teacher. So write down how you think you could collaborate with other teachers. How could you make sure this collaboration actually happens? Okay, so here's some examples. We'll just go through a few of them. So we all have prep time, a period where we're not teaching. Well, hopefully we do, where we're able to like at least email other teachers about what's going on. If we want to go and talk to other teachers, we're able to do that. We also have staff development days where we're able to talk to different, learn from different staff members, and through different conferences and stuff. One that I really liked was number 5, where it says administrator stepping in to teach. I've never really thought about that, but I think that that would be a really good idea to do because you get to um, show, the administrator gets to teach and you get to learn from the way they teach. And also the students get to learn through a different person, which I think is really great. It's also good to bring volunteers in. You're able to interact with more people, and the students get to interact with more people. Also, student teaching. You definitely get to have a fresh mind come in and learn from them. And team teaching, that's a big one because that's a whole different style of teaching that you get to learn from. And then you get to talk with your team teacher about different students and how you can help them and how you can improve learning in the classroom and what that will do to help the students. So there's a YouTube video. It doesn't play. You can't hear the sound if I click on it and play it. But so I'm just going to click on it so you know what to look up. So this is called Cultivating Collaboration. Don't be so defensive. So if you want to type that into YouTube and watch the first like 3.5 minutes of that, that's kind of part of the presentation here. So maybe just like pause this and take a little bit of a watch it real quick. Okay, so um, after you watch it, let's look at some of these things. So in this video, you could tell that there was 2 types of chickens. There was the green zone chickens, which were the collaborative chickens, and the red zone chickens that were kind of the superstar chickens that kind of beat up on the other chickens. And as we learned, the green zone chicken were able to produce more eggs and were more healthy when they were together. But when the superstar chickens were together, they pecked at each other and they tore each other apart. And they weren't able to produce as much as the other chickens. So, how is this like teaching? If we think about it with collaborative chickens that work together, that talk together, we are able to see that these types of teachers have more success because they're able to work together and they don't isolate themselves. The superstar chickens think that they can do it by themselves. These are the superstar teachers that are like, oh yeah, I can do this. I don't need any help. They're my students. I'll just focus on them and not try to get other ideas from other people. And they're the ones that struggle and they're the ones that are picked apart and they are really hard on themselves and they're not able to teach effectively. So 11.4 is about school culture. So in a school culture, it is important to have a good relationship among other teachers. These people become your partners and critical friends. It is important to come up with goals as a school to help teachers feel united. So write down some goals that you think that teachers could make together. One example is to make goals about a new curriculum unit. So if you want to do that for a couple seconds real quick. Okay. So some of the partners, so working with partners with um, establishing a school culture. So this is really important. Partners are able to work together to help practice together and share outcomes and successes together. I think it's really good to have a person that you can share things with. Sometimes we want to share like the successes that we have together, but also we want to share the hard thing that are happening and how we can improve and how we can get through some of the hard parts about teaching. Another thing that can be done in a school culture is cultural um, is to make a plan together, so a multicultural plan. So here's some steps of how that this can be done. This is in the book. So number one is to identify a specific area of focus related to developing a curriculum that is multicultural. Number two is to identify your specific goals for the curriculum project. Number three, identify the resources you need to do this work. Four, specify the steps needed to reach your goals. Five, identify the support your team has and the ways in which you can increase the support. Six, identify the resistance you might encounter and the ways in which you can decrease it. And number seven, identify types, spell check, of these things that you will collect to indicate that this work is making a difference. So if we do all these things, we're able to make a multicultural plan together and we're able to learn from each other using this plan. And it's really important that we help people of different cultures and different backgrounds. And we need to do that by collaborating with other teachers and learning from other teachers.
Hi, my name's Court, and I'll be going over how to develop a plan for your own ongoing professional development as a multicultural educator. So, first of all, why continue your learning and professional development? Well, one, it's to have a variety of skills and strategies for working effectively with diverse learners. And two, it's to be able to modify your approaches in order to address the changing needs of learners. You know, it all comes down to the students. We want to continue our own professional development so that we can continue to serve our students best. Things are always changing in this world. For example, in our class, we learn just how fast our language that we use around students can become outdated. We want to always be improving how we teach a diverse classroom. You know, in the past, with a more homogeneous student population, it might have been acceptable to have a limited number of curriculum development and instructional strategies. But now our learners' needs are very different and they differ greatly from each other. Professional development will help us stay skilled and knowledgeable in a variety of strategies. So, where can I find professional development opportunities? When I first hear professional development, I immediately think about our traditional workshop and training format, usually that takes place in teachers' conferences. But the good news is that we actually have a variety of professional development options. The most powerful professional development happens when learning opportunities are job embedded. A powerful form of professional learning is found in professional learning communities, otherwise known as PLCs. PLCs are opportunities for teachers to come together in a formalized way in order to learn from and with another. There are 5 primary characteristics of a PLC. Members of a PLC engage in supportive and shared leadership, they share values and a vision, they engage in collective learning and application, they share personal practice, and they are provided with supportive conditions. The most commonly recognized form of professional development is workshops. Workshops can be useful if there is support for follow-up and practice put into action about what was learned. Remember, the most powerful professional development happens when learning opportunities are job embedded. The best workshops provide knowledge, demonstration, and then opportunity for practice. Another opportunity for professional development is peer consultation. Peer consultation is when 2 or more colleagues come together regularly to give and receive feedback on an area of mutual interest. Now, that area of mutual interest in this instance could simply be teaching, or it could be a common subject area taught. Peer consultation sounds a lot like the professional learning communities we just learned about 2 slides back. But peer consultation doesn't have to be as formal or as large as PLCs. Peer consultation is when you get together with another teacher or 2 to develop curriculum together. For example, you might work with another colleague for a whole year developing multicultural lesson plans around a big idea like a simulation. Or you might simply lean on each other to observe each other teaching and give feedback. You might also consult with another teacher about examining and grading student work. Going back to what Olivia said in 11.3, collaboration and peer consultation provides teachers with a sense of connectedness and community. You have experienced teachers all around you. Lean on them, learn from them, grow together. There are lots of other opportunities for professional development that you can seek out. You can participate in professional organizations that have a multicultural education agenda. For example, our textbook suggests that you join the National Association for Multicultural Education, otherwise known as NAME. This is the group that led that conference we all went to in February. Membership in NAME provides you with opportunities to network with like-minded educators through online resources, publications, and conferences. So as multicultural educators, it's not only important to look for professional development opportunities, but also to take some time to do some reflective practice. So what is reflective practice? Reflective practice involves a state of perplexity or mental difficulty in which thinking originates, and the act of seeking material to address and dispose of the perplexity. Basically, reflective practice is a systematic approach to think deeply about what you do as an educator, why you do those things, and what your professional strengths, weaknesses, and goals for self-improvement are. Generally, reflective practice should happen after you teach each lesson. Let reflective practice be another form of professional development for you. Consider how your values and beliefs, your knowledge and understanding, and your skills and behaviors affect the way you teach. Deeply think about how those values and behaviors are affecting your students and what you could do to better the lesson and future lesson plans. So reflective thinking happens on 3 levels. First, there's the technical level, where educators simply describe events and activities without much thought as to reasons or rationale. Then there is the contextual level. This is a deeper type of reflection, where you can explain the use of particular approaches, why certain decisions are made, or how contextual aspects, which could be student needs or available resources, influence the outcomes. And third, there's the dialectical level, where you reflect on moral and ethical issues that are involved in your teaching and consider the application of decisions made. So why is reflective practice so important in a multicultural classroom? Reflective thinking teaches you how to learn from the learners. With reflective practice, you will eventually learn how to learn from the students themselves about what they need. Reflective, rational, and conscious decision making are what make up a great teacher. So how do we practice reflective thinking? The most common and widely used activity is journaling. It's great to write about what is happening in your classroom and how you're doing in regard to your multicultural educator action plan. Self-reflect and reassess how you can improve. The textbook provides an inventory of progress, which I have here in the slide, that you can use to self-reflect right now to see where you are in regard to creating your multicultural educator action plan. Take a minute right now to go through and see where you are, and then reflect in a journal entry about how you could check off more yeses in the future. So what can we do right now to prepare? Well, we can set specific goals for our development as a multicultural educator. The more specific your goals are, the greater the chance you have of achieving them. Think about what you want to do in order to enhance your knowledge, skills, and dispositions as a multicultural educator. And second, you can find someone to work with to be an accountability partner in your progress as a multicultural educator. Work together with your partner to develop and implement an action plan, build skills and a knowledge base, and enhance individual awareness as a cultural being.